In the dead of a Padua night in 1609, a man points a strange, new device towards the heavens. What he sees will shatter 1,000 years of belief, defy the most powerful institution on earth, and set humanity on a collision course with a new reality. This is not just the story of an astronomer. It is the story of a rebellion against the cosmos, as it was known, led by one man, Galileo Galilei. His discoveries would cost him his freedom, but they would give us the universe. He would become a heretic in the eyes of his church, but a hero in the annals of science. This is the story of the man who looked through a spyglass and saw the future. Born in Pisa in 1564, Galileo was a man of insatiable curiosity. His father, a renowned musician, intended for him to study medicine, a respectable and lucrative profession. But young Galileo's heart wasn't in pulses and potions, it was in numbers and motion. Legend has it that his scientific journey began in a cathedral, not in prayer, but in observation. Watching a chandelier swing, he used his own pulse to time its oscillations. He discovered that regardless of how wide the swing, the time it took to complete a cycle was the same. This was the principle of the pendulum, an insight that would later revolutionize timekeeping. He had found his true calling, not in healing bodies, but in understanding the mechanics of the world. Galileo was brilliant, but he was also argumentative, and possessed a sharp wit that often landed him in trouble. He quickly gained a reputation as a formidable debater, unafraid to challenge the established doctrines of Aristotle, whose teachings had dominated European thought for centuries. While a professor at the University of Pisa, he famously, perhaps apocryphally, dropped 2 spheres of different masses from the Leaning Tower to demonstrate that they fall at the same rate. Whether the event actually happened is debated, but the thought experiment itself was pure Galileo, a direct, empirical challenge to ancient authority. He wasn't just learning science, he was redefining how it was done. The turning point came in 1609. News arrived of a Dutch invention, a spyglass that made distant objects appear closer. Others saw a novelty or a military tool. Galileo saw the cosmos. Within months, he had not only replicated the device but improved upon it, building a telescope that could magnify objects 20 times. He was the first to systematically turn this powerful new eye toward the night sky. And the universe he had been taught to believe in began to dissolve, night after night. His first target was the moon, where ancient philosophers saw a perfect, ethereal sphere. Galileo saw a world scarred with mountains and valleys, craters and plains, much like the Earth. Its rugged, imperfect surface was a direct contradiction to the church-endorsed idea of flawless, celestial bodies. It was the first crack in the crystal spheres of the heavens. But he was just getting started. Next, he turned his telescope to Jupiter. He noticed 3, then 4, small points of light near the planet, which he initially mistook for fixed stars. But as he observed them over successive nights, he saw they were moving. Not only were they moving, but they were orbiting Jupiter. He had discovered moons and Medicean stars he named in a clever bid for patronage. This was a bombshell. For the first time, humanity had proof of celestial bodies orbiting something other than the Earth. If Jupiter could have its own moons, then the Earth was not the unique center of all motion. The geocentric model, the bedrock of both science and theology for centuries, was beginning to crumble. Galileo published his findings in a short, explosive booklet called Sidereus Nuncius, or the Starry Messenger. It made him an overnight sensation across Europe. He was celebrated, honored, and appointed as the chief mathematician and philosopher to the Grand Duke of Tuscany. But with fame came scrutiny. His discoveries were a direct challenge to the Ptolemaic system, which placed the Earth at the center of the universe. This model was not just scientific dogma, it was deeply intertwined with the teachings of the Catholic Church, which saw it as reflecting humanity's special place in God's creation. Galileo became a vocal champion of the heliocentric model proposed by Nicolaus Copernicus nearly a century earlier, which placed the Sun at the center of the solar system. His observations of the phases of Venus provided powerful evidence. Under the Ptolemaic system, Venus should only show crescent and new phases, but Galileo observed a full set of phases, just like the Moon. This was only possible if Venus orbited the Sun, not the Earth. The evidence was overwhelming. For a time, the Church tolerated his work. Cardinal Maffeo Barberini, a future pope, was even an admirer of Galileo. But Galileo's combative nature, and his insistence on writing in Italian, the language of the common people, rather than the academic Latin, brought his radical ideas to a wider audience. He was not just debating scholars. He was changing the public's understanding of their place in the universe. Conservative forces within the Church grew alarmed. In 1616, The Inquisition declared Copernicanism to be foolish and absurd in philosophy, and formally heretical. Galileo was warned not to hold, teach, or defend the theory in any way. For years, Galileo remained publicly silent on the matter. But in 1623, his friend, Cardinal Barberini, was elected Pope Urban VIII. Believing he had a powerful ally, Galileo felt emboldened. He began writing his magnum opus, Dialogue Concerning the Two Chief World Systems. To get around the Inquisition's decree, he framed it as a neutral debate between three characters: Salviati, who argued for the Copernican system; Sagredo, an intelligent layman; Simplicio, a bumbling defender of the old Ptolemaic view. The book was a masterpiece of scientific rhetoric, but it was also a fatal miscalculation. Galileo put the Pope's own arguments into the mouth of Simplicio, whose name in Italian means simpleton, and had him sound utterly foolish. Pope Urban VIII felt personally mocked and betrayed. The full wrath of the Inquisition was unleashed. In 1633, nearly 70 years old, and in failing health, Galileo was summoned to Rome to stand trial for heresy. Under the threat of torture, the aged scientist was forced to recant. On his knees before the cardinals, he abjured, cursed, and detested his own discoveries. I.e. Galileo, he was forced to declare, have held and believed that the sun is the center of the world, and immovable, and that the earth is not the center and moves. He was sentenced to house arrest for the remainder of his life. Legend whispers that as he rose to his feet, he muttered "Et per se, muove," and yet, it moves. The story is likely a later embellishment, but it captures the indomitable spirit of a man who knew the truth, even if he was forbidden to speak it. Galileo spent his final years under guard at his villa near Florence. Blind and broken in spirit, he was forbidden from publishing or having visitors without permission. Yet, even in his confinement, his mind remained free. He secretly wrote and smuggled out the manuscript for his final great work, Two New Sciences, which laid the foundation for the modern science of materials in motion. It was a final act of defiance, a testament to a mind that could not be imprisoned. Galileo died in 1642, the same year Isaac Newton was born. It was as if the torch of science was being passed from one giant to the next. For over 350 years, the Church's condemnation stood. It was not until 1992 that Pope John Paul II formally acknowledged the errors of the tribunal, finally vindicating the man who had been condemned for seeing the universe too clearly. Galileo's story is a timeless reminder of the conflict between tradition and discovery, faith and reason. He was not just an astronomer who built a better telescope. He was a revolutionary who fundamentally changed our relationship with the cosmos. He taught us to trust not in ancient texts, but in the evidence of our own eyes, to question authority, and to relentlessly pursue the truth, no matter the cost. He tore down the heavens of old and gave us the infinite, wondrous universe we know today. He was, in every sense of the word, the father of modern science. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey through history compelling, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the past.